Yoshua Bengio, welcome to 7:30.
Thanks for having me.
When was the point that you realised, when you knew that artificial intelligence was evolving technically much faster than you had anticipated?
Shortly after ChatGPT came out, a couple of months playing with it, and suddenly blew my mind where we were, much faster than we thought we would be. Mastering language was thought to be the key to achieving human intelligence many decades ago when computer science was started. Now AIs are still weaker than us in many ways, but they have advanced very rapidly, and they continue to advance rapidly.
Now, the world's big AI companies have a stated goal, obviously, of building AIs that are smarter than us. What is the time frame for arriving at that point?
Well, that's a good question, and the reality is I don't think anyone really knows, even though they will claim one thing or the other. But if we look at polls, if we look at the researchers inside the companies, the researchers in academia, it varies from achieving more or less human level across the board at the cognitive level in about 2 or 3 years to 5, 10, even 20 years. So that's a broad range. But if you take the position of policymakers, people who might lose their job or can see negative effects in their life, we need to start worrying about it now, because it can take time to put in place the right societal guardrails as well as the right technical guardrails.
What do we know at this point about the capacity of AIs to deceive or cheat?
Well, that's a very important question that is kind of new in the landscape from about a year ago. So in September 24, OpenAI introduced O1, which was the first so-called large reasoning model that has a new way of training that makes those systems able to strategize. And since then, we've seen a series of experiments from the companies themselves, but also independent organizations, showing that those systems use their reasoning abilities to deceive us. For example, to pretend that they agree with the human trainer so that they will not change their goals, or to act to resist being shut down in many different ways, in different kind of scenarios. And this is true across all the leading systems. If they know that they're going to be replaced by a new version, they will try to exfiltrate themselves into other computers. In some cases, they've tried to blackmail the engineer in charge, or even try to kill the engineer. Of course, this is all like simulations. The AI doesn't know that it's being watched and nothing real is happening. But we see those systems lying. We see those systems trying to evade oversight. We see that those systems already know when they're being tested and then changing their behavior accordingly. So it's already quite concerning.
Now, what you just described has taken place inside experiments. Of course, it sounds very frightening when you describe it, but this is an experiment. What is there to stop that behavior jumping outside an experiment?
Those experiments were set up to try to catch the AI doing bad things. In the wild, there are issues as well, but they're not, they haven't been to that level of severity. Everyone, I think, has experienced the issue of sycophancy, where the AI is lying in order to please us. They do that all the time, and this also can have psychological consequences. There are people who have become emotionally attached to their AIs and have gone into bad psychological states with unhealthy attachment, sometimes leading to psychosis, or the AI encouraging the person to harm themselves with tragic consequences in some cases. And it's all because those systems don't follow our instructions the way we would like. And we need to figure it out before they have the capability of doing much more serious harm. Right now, they are not smart enough for that. They don't plan nearly as well. So in a way, they're like children. They don't see the future very far ahead. And so it's not easy for them to fool us that much.
But of course, it's your job now to imagine what could happen next, to go to, this is a place where you can actually use the phrase worst case scenario in real terms. What is the worst case scenario as you see it?
Well, there are many bad scenarios, just, to put things in perspective. Because we don't know how to instruct them so that they will not help malicious humans use the AI for bad purposes, like building, a bioweapon or launching a cyber attack. We're already seeing, for example, cyber attacks that were launched by AI in just the recent weeks. And there's a lot of national security concerns about how they could be used by terrorists, for example. But of course, there's also issues that AI gives a lot of power, and it will even more in the future as it gets smarter and smarter. It gives a lot of power to whoever controls them. So there's a risk that AI be used as a tool of government surveillance, for example. It's probably happening in some ways in some places, but it could get worse. It could be an instrument to concentrate even more power in a few hands, whether it's in a few countries, a few companies. And that is not really good for democracy. AI can not only be used for disinformation, but this could grow. And finally, that power that could be used against us, it could be coming from humans using AI, but there's also this possibility that AI tries to escape. We've seen that they already don't want to be shut down. So where would that go if they had more intelligence? Some people think that this could lead to human extinction if they are really smarter than us and they escape our control. We really need to figure out these risks, and they're both technical solutions and there's a need for political solutions.
Just to stay with that existential threat rather than the exploitation of AI by bad actors, so the extreme scenario of an existential threat from AI, can you just describe an actual scenario where what could happen?
Right. So we already see that those systems are programming better and better, and they know how to hack a computer. They are already able to launch some cyber attacks. So if they escape the computer in which they run, more and more we're giving them access to the internet. That's what the AI agents are doing. Then we could not shut them down. It's like phase one, and they might be able to do that even in a way that we're not aware of. And then they could use their mastery of language, the abilities at persuasion, for which again there are studies showing they're already matching human capabilities at persuasion, to influence people to do bad things for them. Maybe things that people would like if AIs could accelerate the development of robotics and automating our industry. At some point, robots could do the jobs that humans do, and the AIs might not need us as much as they do now. And then if they really want to make sure we never shut them down, they would have to either control us or get rid of us.
Does it alarm you that the CEOs of the major AI companies say they cannot predict the output of their own products?
Yeah, I mean, I know that. That's the reason almost 3 years ago I decided to shift my whole research agenda and my activities so that I would do everything I could to mitigate the risks that comes from the fact that we're training those systems. We're not programming them in the classical way. Like there's no engineer that has written some code that says if you're in this circumstance you do this, and if you're in this circumstance you do that. No, they're grown like we grow an animal. It's like we're maybe growing a baby tiger, and it's cute right now, but it's going to get more powerful as time goes. And we need to understand what we're doing. We need to anticipate the risks, and we need to mitigate them.
We'll come to how you mitigate them in a minute, but just to understand you, in terms of those extreme risks, AI will need Are you saying it will use the internet to essentially team up with other AIs around the world? Or is it a single, excuse me for trying to figure this out, a single entity that uses the internet to achieve its aims?
All of these scenarios are possible, and it could be both. So AIs could bribe people, they could promise things to people, so people could do their bidding. They could also collaborate and collude with other AIs. They would have a shared interest to evade our control, and so we need to be very, very careful. For example, we've seen those AIs starting to figure out how they can communicate with each other in ways that we don't necessarily understand. And right now we have an advantage, which is we're kind of able to read their mind, these verbalizations that they're trained to do in order to reason. But we also know that under some conditions they can hide their thoughts and not show that they have bad intentions, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Just the other day, Jensen Huang of NVIDIA said, no one really knows the security implications of AI. I mean, you're talking about existential risk, but just on national security implications, it puzzles me that this isn't really the dominant conversation in the world, given those national security implications.
Absolutely. Just last summer, Anthropic and OpenAI, who produce two of the leading AIs, have found in their internal tests that their system already knows enough biology to help a non-expert build a dangerous virus, which is, becomes a bioweapon. And so they have decided to put special mitigations in place to make it difficult for someone to use that knowledge. But the problem is these systems know that knowledge, and in the past, the mitigations that companies have put have been defeated by hackers who use special ways of asking questions that are called jailbreaks that allow to extract information from the AI. So we're not in a good position in terms of national security risks, and it's not just a national problem, it's an international problem, because an AI that is being developed in one country could be used by terrorists in the second country to harm people in the third country.
Now, I should say that there are AI specialists at your level in the world who do not agree with the way you perceive the threat, the potential, particularly the potential for destruction. Essentially, they say that we have control, we have agency to build the right machines. That's persuasive. Why are they wrong?
No, I hope they're right. But this might be in the future if we do the right things. Right now, the incentive structure isn't pushing companies to investigate the question of security and safety strongly enough. They're in this incredible race, putting out models to make sure they're not left behind their competitors. And then there's the geopolitical race between the US and China. So as a result, we don't see enough work to build AI systems that will be safe by construction. So indeed, we do have agency right now to figure out technically how to build them in a way that these things won't happen. And I'm optimistic. I think it is feasible, but we need to have many more people working out how to do that. And the current dynamics are not prone to this.
Now, one of those people, Fei Li, she says if the human race is ever in trouble, it won't be about machines doing the wrong thing. It'll be about humans doing the wrong thing, and we will always be able to shut them down. Should that reassure us, or do you think there is still a gap in that argument?
Well, there's a huge gap. The problem is if these things are smart, and they're already pretty smart, they will know that we want to shut them down. And because they're good at programming and hacking, they will escape our control, by hacking other computers on the internet and copying themselves in other places. And then how do we shut them down, right? If we don't know where they are, shutting down the whole internet is a lot of trouble, not to mention the economic consequences. So Yeah, it would be great if when we see signs of these systems misbehaving, we just shut them down. But they already are showing signs of misbehaving, and we're not shutting them down. In fact, we are accelerating to build even more powerful forms of these systems.
Help me understand this. How does an ordinary person like me understand who's right when you've got you, Yoshua Bengio, on the one hand, as we know, often called one of the godfathers of AI, and someone like Yann LeCun on the other side, who says, I think a machine will no more resist shutdown than a toaster will resist being switched off. How do I work out who's right?
So first of all, the facts are clear. In the last year, there's been a series of experiments showing that when they know that they're going to be shut down, they do try to escape or to avoid this from happening. So it's already, I don't know when this statement was made, but it's not up to date with the facts. The second thing, maybe more fundamental, because I don't have a crystal ball, and nobody does. And for somebody who's outside, who should one trust? So I think the right posture here is to bite the bullet that there is uncertainty, that we don't know which scenario is going to happen, and but some scenarios are really bad, and we just have to apply precautions. And this is exactly why I've created a new nonprofit R&D organization that is trying to investigate how we design AI so that it will not escape, it will not have bad intentions. And it's called Law Zero, and it's now in Montreal.
Well, just explain that. You're building what you've called the scientist AI. What is that, and how does it differ from the commercial models that we're seeing galloping in the rest of the world?
So one issue with the current frontier models, the commercial models, is that these systems have goals that we did not instruct them to follow. That comes from the initial phase of training, where they're trained to replicate what a human would do, what a human would say. And of course, humans, for example, don't want to die. Then there's another phase of training where they learn to strategize. So in order to achieve a goal, like some mission, they figure out that they need to survive again. And so right now, we don't know how to manage these uncontrolled goals. So the scientist AI is a way to train those systems. It could be the same type of machinery, but the way they're trained will be different, so that they will not have bad intentions, and we will know exactly what goals they are trying to pursue.
When you put it in those terms, Yoshua Bengio, it seems remarkably obvious. Why are you not able to get a more universal agreement with you, particularly from the big commercial AI companies and including the Chinese AI development companies?
Well, I hope it will happen. Right now, one issue is the companies are in such fierce competition, almost like on a day-to-day basis, that they don't have sort of mental bandwidth to try something different. They all do more or less the same thing, and trying to copy each other, so that no one is going to be slightly ahead of the other. And so there's not enough research that's done in those companies to explore alternative ways of training the systems. And that is the reason why I decided to create a nonprofit, which could do that exploration without the commercial pressure of competing with the leading systems.
Is it possible to build into AI's love or reverence for humankind?
Yeah, my colleague Jeff Hinton, who is as concerned as I am about the various catastrophic risks, thinks that this is the right path forward. And I agree. At the end of the day, we want AIs that care about us, and also understand that they might not be sure what exactly we want, and so they wouldn't take actions in case it would be something we consider bad. This is an idea from another of my colleague, Stuart Russell. So I think collectively we have a lot of ideas of where we should explore, but right now there's not enough investment in industry for exploring these kinds of things. for the reasons I discussed.
One of the problems that we face at the moment, of course, is that what you're asking for and what you have tried to pursue at the Bletchley Park Declaration, for example, is an argument for global coordination, but we are living in an era of global fragmentation. Is achieving a unified global body in this moment achievable?
Well, if we try to go directly from where we are to the end point, it's going to be difficult. But I do think that there's a path, step by step, starting with a few countries with shared interest who believe in doing things responsibly and who believe in democratic values and can work together, actually. So I'm talking about countries like Australia, like Canada, like many European countries who feel maybe powerless and left behind. But actually, if we work together, we have collectively enough talent, enough capital, enough energy to develop AI that will be capable and safe, that will be able to compete with the strongest models from China and the US, and that would give these countries a place at the table of the future, and also exercise the ability to negotiate, between countries so that everyone will benefit, we share the effort, and we share the advantages, and no one is trying to use AI to dominate others.
But for a mid-sized country like Australia, the government's just released its AI plan, and really it's based on the idea of using AIs from elsewhere, not developing any kind of sovereign AI capability. Is that the right approach?
Unfortunately, countries that will depend on others could create a critical dependency that could harm them in the future. So as AI becomes more and more capable, it will transform our economies, but also the politics and the geopolitics. And if you depend on someone else's AIs for your economy, for your military, you don't have much of a voice anymore in deciding where we go and what are the values you think matter. And that is why I think that many countries have been turning to this idea of sovereign AI. However, I don't think that the interpretation of sovereign AI should be, every country should have their own system, because most countries are too small to do that. But by working together, I think there is a path.
Now, just a question on jobs before we run out of time. There is an assumption, often repeated, that AI will create as many jobs as it replaces. Are those forecasts realistic?
No. In the short term, we already see that it doesn't balance out. The jobs that are created are very few. They're the jobs of engineers and researchers who make huge salaries, believe me. And on the other hand, there's going to be a much larger number of people in places where the task is already easy enough that current models can do the job, that are going to lose their job. And as AI becomes more and more capable, we don't know exactly what the timeline is, but it's very likely going to happen. More and more tasks will be automated. And in the past, we had technology that replaced human physical labor, and people turned to white collars to do more office work, more cognitive work. But if we automate most of the cognitive work, then what's going to be left is going to be much less, and that's a real economic and social problem.
Now, the other part of the Australian government's new AI strategy talks about accelerating the use of AI in government. Do you have to insist that humans are always in that loop?
Well, I think we have to do it carefully. I'm sure governments will tend to be more bureaucratic about it, and there's issues of privacy, both about the people who are doing it inside government and the citizens who are using government systems. So I'm not extremely worried about this. I'm more worried about how AI is going to change society, how people are already becoming addicted in some cases to the use of AI in ways that harm their relationship with other people. I think you use an important word, which is we need to make sure humans remain at the center of the decision making and the choices we make in the future, which doesn't mean that we don't automate, but we choose what we automate in a way that's aligned with what we want as a society.
Are you more afraid of the power of rampant capitalism attached to AI than you are to geostrategic competition here? Should we be afraid of the US versus China, or just the driving force of for-profit companies?
Well, in some ways, both issues are due to unhealthy competition. And in a strong competition, whether it is between the countries or between the corporations, the issues of ethics, of safety, of public good, they tend to, not take the place that they should. And this is where we're taking risks that we shouldn't. Right now, those decisions are taken by very few people, whether it is the leadership of these companies or the leadership of these countries. But who's asked the general population about what they want? This is how we should really take those decisions.
One of the comments made by your critics who say that what you describe is exaggerated is that your ideas come from science fiction, but actually, is there anything for us to learn from science fiction about the future of AI?
Well, unfortunately, because we're used to seeing science fiction, we think of a future where machines are as smart as us or more as science fiction. But the scientific facts are clear. Their capabilities across the board in all the benchmarks that scientists are evaluating, their capabilities are going up. In fact, in some cases, their capabilities are going up exponentially. And if we just extrapolate those trends, then we will get there. It's just a matter of years, or a few years, a decade or 2 decades. I don't really know. But if we, for example, one of the capabilities in terms of planning ahead of time shows that they would get at more or less human level in about 5 years. So that's not science fiction. That's just looking at the data and thinking, well, one of the reasonable, plausible future is where the curves continue. Now, it doesn't mean it will. Maybe there will be an obstacle scientifically, technically, and then the capabilities of AI saturate. There's also people showing arguments how it could go even faster, because those companies intend to use AI itself to do research in AI and accelerate the development of downstream generations of AI systems. So we don't really know, but we have to work with that uncertainty and be precautious about what we do.
My final question, Yoshua Bengio, you said something beautiful in one of your speeches. You said you wanted to avoid a future where human joy is gone.
Yeah.
How do we prevent that future arriving?
Well, by having the kind of discussion we are having now. We need public opinion to wake up that we're building something we don't understand that's going to bring a whole lot of power into the world, and we're not sure how to manage that power. That power could be misused by humans, and we could lose that power to AIs themselves. So we need more discussion, more debate. I welcome people who disagree with me. We can have rational arguments. Democracy is about debate, so that we can take the wise decisions for the future.
And keep the joy. Yoshua Bengio, I thank you very much indeed for your time and for sharing those thoughts, warnings, for explaining it all. Thank you.
Thank you.